I was never supposed to be a singer. Ah, at least, that's what everyone told me. Ah, too ordinary. They said, "Landing the Argentala, ni Waitchitisa, too loud, too New York. Landing Anaus, that's Telun Berlingwajid. But my voice, that was the one thing I couldn't hide. It was bigger than me. I grew up in Brooklyn. Nisayana was in the world. I grew up in Brooklyn, in a small apartment where dreams were considered luxuries. My mother worked hard. My father died when I was still a baby. Nishichan, oh, itchisi. We didn't have much, but we had music, the radio, the Broadway, cast albums, voices that filled the room with hope. I'd sit by the record player, pow, ew, studying every note. Neil Shell, what chair, nor abe note, trying to imagine how it would feel to stand under those lights. I wasn't a confident girl. I was awkward, easy, shy. No, more than how, right? Sour, uncertain, and yet, no. The moment I sang, all of that disappeared. And the world that made me small suddenly fit inside my voice. I didn't know what fame was. I only knew that when I sang, I felt seen. When I told my mother I wanted to be a singer, she laughed, not cruelly, just protectively. "Alan," she said, "Barbra, många chans. It's a tough world. You're not the type they put on magazine covers." But deep down, I knew I didn't need a cover. I needed a stage. My first gigs were in smoky bars and little clubs in Greenwich Village. I was too young to drink, too ambitious to quit. People would talk over me while I sang, and I'd think, one day they'll stop talking. No, and they did. Because somewhere between the second and third chorus, something changed. Well, they started listening, not because I looked like a star, but because I sounded like someone who'd lived 100 lives before 18. That night, when the applause came, it wasn't thunderous, but it was honest. And that honesty became my drug. Broadway came calling. Funny girl, I was terrified and thrilled. They said, "One diamond." They said, "Barbra, don't overdo it." But I didn't know any other way. I wasn't acting. I was feeling. The first time I sang, people. And the audience went silent, and when the last note hung in the air, I heard it. That sound, not applause yet, just breath. That moment before they explode, when everyone in the room shares the same heartbeat. That's when I realized this was home. And in it hit like a flashbulb overnight. Then tonight, I went from the girl nobody believed in to the woman whose voice defined an era. The movies. There are the Grammys. Ah, the Oscars. Everything I had ever dreamed of, and more than I ever knew I could handle. People loved to call me a perfectionist. They said it like it was a curse. Oh. But to me, perfection was love. Every note, every scene. One shot, one in challenge. Every word, I wanted it to be true. Because truth was the only thing that ever made me feel safe. But fame isn't truth. It's noise. It's lights and expectations and mirrors that never show you what's real. For years, I tried to be everything everyone wanted. The actress, the singer, the icon, the sea. And for a while, and the comments and dictate in the chair campaign. It worked underneath until I realized, somewhere along the way, I had stopped singing for myself. I had stopped singing for myself. There's a strange loneliness that comes with success. Everyone knows your name. It's a but no one really knows you. They see the gowns, the awards, the glamour. They don't see the nights you lie awake, wondering if your voice will still be there in the morning. I used to stand backstage just before a concert. And whisper to myself, no, don't forget why you started. But sometimes I did. Sometimes I sang out of obligation instead of passion. And when that happens, when music becomes duty, you lose something precious. I remember one concert. It was in London. A sold-out crowd. Lights like stars. Down. I was halfway through Evergreen. And suddenly I felt empty. The notes were there, but the feeling wasn't. It terrified me. Because if I couldn't feel it, how could they? How? After the show, I did. After the show, I went back to my hotel and cried. Not because I'd sung badly. The reviews were glowing, but because I realized I was losing the one thing that made all of it worth it, the joy. I began to pull away from the spotlight, fewer tours, fewer interviews. and child. People thought it was vanity or control. It wasn't. It was fear. Etwa fear of losing control of my own story. Yeah, fear of giving too much away. Fear of not recognizing the woman in the photos anymore. I started spending more time behind the camera. Died Angelica directing. And so on the pantiku is because directing let me build worlds instead of performing in them. It gave me peace for a while, but the stage never truly leaves you. Even when you walk away, it follows you like a ghost. People think singing is just using your voice. And how? It's not. It's opening your soul every night and hoping it doesn't get bruised too badly. And after decades of doing that, I realized my soul needed rest. That's the part no one tells you. Success isn't only about what you gain. It's about what you give away. And I had given everything. I see that into you. So when people ask, now people ask, Barbara, and you're not sure. Barbara, why did you stop singing? Oh, I tell them, it wasn't one moment. It was 100 small ones. A whisper that turned into a truth. You don't have to prove anything anymore. No, sex and nudity don't have to prove anything anymore. But it took me years to listen, because even when the applause fades, there's still a part of you that misses the noise, the validation, the rush. And letting go of that is harder than hitting any note. I didn't stop because I couldn't sing. I stopped because for the first time, when knows, and I wanted to breathe. To be a woman, not a legend. To live quietly enough to hear my own thoughts again. But the journey to that peace, that took a long time. People often call me a perfectionist. They say it like a compliment and a curse. But they don't understand. Perfection was never about control. It was about fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being seen as the girl from Brooklyn who didn't belong in a world of elegance and polish. So I worked. Every detail, every note, every line of film, I fought for it. Because when I couldn't control how the world saw me, I see. I could at least control the art I gave it. The higher you climb, the thinner the air gets. Fame is intoxicating and suffocating. When you start believing that every song, every performance has to be the best, that people won't forgive a single mistake. I remember one concert in Los Angeles. I walked on stage, and the sound of the crowd hit me like a wave. But something inside me froze. I forgot the lyrics, just one line, and it haunted me for years. That single imperfection replayed in my mind like a broken record. Everyone else forgot. I never did. I never did. It sounds silly, doesn't it? One forgotten line out of thousands of perfect performances. But for me, it told me that was failure, and I couldn't bear failure. So I stopped touring. People said, people said, Barbra doesn't like performing live. That wasn't true. I loved singing. I just hated being afraid. Afraid that one missed note would erase everything. Afraid that the woman behind the legend wasn't worthy of the applause. When you're young, nerve, excitement. When you're older, their exhaustion. I am worn up and die. And one night, I realized the fear was louder than the music. That fear followed me into the studio. Every time I recorded, I'd ask to do another take. And another, and another, and I'm such around so day. The engineers would laugh. Barbra, didn't it's perfect. But I'd hear something only I could hear. Something not quite right. That pursuit of perfect cost me peace. My husband once told me, perfection is just a way of hiding from love. Up now. It took me years to understand what he meant. When you chase perfection, you forget to enjoy the beauty of imperfection, the human part, the part that makes a song alive. Maybe that's what I'd lost somewhere along the way. The voice is a fragile thing. It changes with age, with heartbreak, with life, but the audience rarely forgives that. They want the same voice they fell in love with decades ago, the same power, the same sparkle. I started to feel that weight, that impossible expectation, every time I sang. People weren't just hearing my voice. They were hearing their own memories. The sharpness of the word, lies and seal. And how do you compete with memory? At home, I'd stand in front of the mirror, gentle and while, oh, warming up high, listening for cracks that weren't there. One day, my voice simply didn't rise as easily as before. It was still strong. No, it would, but different, mature, slower, less forgiving. Well, now, how? And I remember thinking, oh, is this what time sounds like? It wasn't sad. I wanted you. I did. Just real. But for a while, I couldn't accept it. Because the world doesn't allow women to age gracefully on stage. Not in music. Not in film. It's what I. And for someone like me, one who had spent a lifetime defying expectations, there was a hard truth to face. So I chose silence for a while. Not because I couldn't sing, but because I needed to remember why I ever did. During that time, during that time, I found peace in quiet things, gardening, cooking, and dinner. Then watching the sun set over the ocean with my husband, made simple things I never had time for when I was chasing perfection. And in that silence, I heard something I had missed for years. Myself. It took decades to learn that the world doesn't end when you miss a note. That the cracks in your voice aren't flaws. They're proof that you've lived. Every note you sing is a timeline of who you were in that moment. And when the voice changes, it doesn't mean you've lost it. It means you've grown. But I wasn't ready to see that yet. Not then. Why? People kept asking when I'd tour again. And I'd say, oh, I'm here now. Did you want? Did you? Soon. No. Then time I say. But deep down, I knew that part of my life was ending. I just didn't know how to say goodbye to it. I didn't. Well. One day, when Jade, a young singer, came up to me after an event and said, Barbra, Barbra, I want to be just like you. And I looked at her and thought, I hope you learn to be yourself sooner than I did. Because the truth is, for years I sang to prove something. To prove that a girl with a Brooklyn accent and a crooked nose could stand beside anyone in the world. And I did. And all no she did. when sick. But when you've spent a lifetime fighting to be seen, you forget how to rest once you're finally seen. Neon or do not did it, and don't say. That's why letting go wasn't a decision. It was a necessity. My voice was still there. Nay, high. But my spirit was tired. And I realized that true art doesn't come from exhaustion. It comes from love. It's in individuality. So I chose to step away, not out of weakness, but out of respect for the music. No, oh, for myself. One, you, for the girl who started this journey with nothing but a voice and a dream. People think stopping means quitting. But sometimes it means listening. And when I finally listened, I heard something beautiful, the sound of peace. I used to believe the stage was the only place where I truly existed. The lights, the applause. No, the orchestra swelling beneath my voice. It felt like life itself. But now, I understand. The stage was only a mirror. The real life, the one that matters, was waiting for me off stage all along. These days, Absalel Channel now strain it. My mornings are quiet. No rehearsals. No cameras. No flights. Just the sound of waves outside my window. The clink of a teacup, and the gentle laughter of my husband across the table. And it's not the sound of an audience, but it's still music. People often ask, Barbra, do you miss it? Of course I do. But missing something isn't the same as wanting it back. I miss the way it made me feel alive, fearless, connected. Oh no. But I don't miss the weight it carried. I think every artist has to face that moment when the voice that once defined them becomes softer and wiser. The truth is, the world doesn't end when the spotlight fades. You just start seeing in natural light again. Den er typ down on his house. And that light, it's beautiful. When I listen to old recordings now, I don't critique them anymore. I used to obsess over every flat note, every breath that came too early. Oh, now, none is saying, I hear the girl I was, young, passionate, and angel. No, that's no, your type, a kitty poverty, terrified, and I feel grateful that I was brave enough to try. That's the thing about time. It softens everything. The mistakes, the regrets, the pressure. A beam is a wall. The pressure. It leaves only the melody. I used to believe art was about being perfect. And now I know it's about being honest. Down the cracks in your voice. The tremble in your hands, those are the truth. That's where the emotion lives. That's where the audience finds themselves. So, I don't see my silence as retirement. It's a different kind of song. Why do and ciao? I don't like Choni. And the ciao bear. One with no lyrics and no stage. But with a rhythm that feels a lot like peace. What? I look back now and realize I spent a lifetime trying to be heard. But the greatest lesson I've learned is how to listen to others, to the world. Now out of it in dipchin, asset to myself. I later on yipsal warnian, how ja. And when you listen closely, you realize that silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It's the pause between notes that makes the music beautiful. To those who ask why I stopped singing, Marisa and Inoina. To those who ask why I stopped, I say this. Because sometimes you have to leave the song unfinished so it can keep living on its own. My voice still exists in records, in films, in memories, but most of all, in people. And nibbling every time someone plays one of my songs, my story starts again. And that's the beauty of music. You can stop singing, but the song never stops. I used to measure success in standing ovations. Wow, how? Now I measure it in quiet moments, watching the sun set, hearing a child laugh. Down into you. Feeling love that doesn't need an audience. That's my final act. Not a curtain call. A Sinadeva Nuandi. But a homecoming. I've spent my life trying to perfect the sound of my voice. Now, I'm learning to perfect the sound of silence. It's the softest, most honest music I've ever heard. And when I sit in that quiet with my family, my memories, my heart, I realize something. I never really stopped singing. I just changed the audience. Because the truth is, you don't need a microphone to make people feel. You just need a heart that still believes in beauty. And mine does. I'm Barbra Streisand. And this is why I quit.